In our next press briefing, yesterday we spoke about liberation of hostage Nadia Savchenko, who is still in Voronezh in Russia. In addition to Sentsov, Nadia, there are some other hostages who were legally arrested, and they are in Russia. And Civic activists do a lot to liberate them and to bring them back to Ukraine. We'll speak about two more hostages today who are in Russia. We'll speak to Ostap Kumansky. He's a classmate of Yury Yatsenko, one of a resident of Lviv. He was arrested in Russia, and Ostap is fighting to return him back to Russia. Also, we'll receive assessment of a lawyer, Nazar Kylchytsky, and also on Skype we'll speak to Svitlana Gannushkina, who is a Russian lawyer and the chair of the Civic Assistance Committee. You are invited. Good afternoon. Two residents of Lviv were arrested in Russia. On the 5th, they crossed the border with the Russian Federation, and they arrested in the hotel, and they checked they told the workers that they put wrong information, and they came on private because of it was a private trip, and in fact they went as a tourist, and there was a court proceeding. They decided to kick them out of Russian Federation to pay a fine of 2,000 rubles, and they paid the fine. And on the 22nd, they were supposed to be moved away from Russian Federation, but for 3 months they kept there. Plus, they applied as force by FSB. On the 22nd of May, one of the arrested, Yury, police came in masks. They took him from special institution, and they took them nobody knows where. And on the back seat, they were beating him on his head, on genitals, and then they interrogated him, and they took him to the forest, and they kicked him out of the car, and they were provoking him to. They wanted to know about Maidan, and they asked him about whether he was a member of right sector, and they asked to confess that they committed some crimes in Russian Federation, but they were able to stand it, and they didn't sign any documents. After that, after those tortures, they were not able to stand it morally, and they cut the veins and stomachs, and they wanted to have a meeting with a lawyer, and they got into a hospital. On that day, they thought to receive medical assistance and legal assistance, and they had access to our counsel. Now they are illegally kept in the special institution, and there is no ground to keep them there. And they wanted to start the criminal cases, fake criminal cases against them, as if they had some explosives, but the judge refused to initiate a criminal case. So that's why there is no accusation, there is nothing, there is no reason to keep them there. As we see, they are there for 3 months. Their health is fine. They are waiting until they are shipped from Russian territory, but Russia somehow doesn't do anything for that. In fact, the situation, I would like to add to what Ostap told. According to information I received, it's not about 2 people only. In the same deportation center, there are they keep about 40 Ukrainians. And when a consul came, nobody knew about that. That's why we can say that this is turns out to be a massive phenomena, and every Ukrainian in Russian Federation is facing the risk to be illegally arrested and kicked out of Russian Federation. And there are serious reasons to believe that with the help of tortures, they can get some evidence from them as if they committed some crimes. The situation with these two guys is a good example. There was no reason to arrest them. First of all, to keep them in deportation in the deportation center, and the cause was just made up. And they say why they considered them to be illegally in Russian Federation because they mentioned no tourism, but a personal trip to Russia. What is the difference between these two reasons for entry to Russia? Nobody understands. Even the Russian Federation. Their lawyers don't understand that. Also, interrogation and beating, that was done by FSB staff. They wrote a complaint about severe treatment, and it's a classical genre. So expertise was done in a month and a half after they were beaten, and of course they didn't find any signs of violence over them. And then only evidence of from FSB people were used, and they told they treated them nicely, but doesn't say what they were talking about. And FSB says that there were no documents taken from them. There is only reference to that they considered that they believe that they committed some crimes, but in materials there is only refusal to start a criminal case, and that was done by police. So that was a case completely not in FSB department. It's clear that it was not related to anything. In addition to that, even this case, in the refusal to initiate a criminal case against the guys, it was about explosives, but they did not find any explosive materials. FSB asked them if they were members of right sector and events on Maidan, etc., etc. So absolutely clear that the arrest and keeping them in the deportation center has only one goal: not to give time to FSB people to beat out evidence which will be efficiently used by a Russian legal system. In this case, we can speak about violation of the legislation, and I mean the Convention on Human Rights, because under such conditions, if they are not returned to the territory of Ukraine, the only way for us to get their liberation is only if we write a statement to the European Court of and then that court should demand their liberation. Also, it's important to prevent similar situations in the future, because unfortunately events as to Ukrainians are very similar, like against the Georgians in 2008 when they were arrested without in the region, when they kicked them out of Russian Federation and used torture against them. At that time, European Court told that the Georgians could not get justice in Russian Federation. And these events don't allow to think that Ukrainians have a chance for a fair trial or any fair attitude on the territory of Russian Federation. I want to give the floor to Svitlana Gannushkina. We are trying to connect Svitlana through Skype. She belongs to a advocacy group and to Civic assistance, and we hope that we'll communicate to her.
Okay, while we are trying to contact Ms. Gannushkina, let's ask questions. We will try again to contact Svitlana. Yes, we have questions from the audience. My question is to Nazar. You said that almost 40 Ukrainians are in deportation centers. Does this apply only to peaceful to civilians, or also to those Ukrainian military who left the territory of Ukraine and sought salvation on the territory of Russian Federation? As far as I know, these 40 people are just civilians who have no relation to armed forces, but the matter is that this was discovered by representatives of the Ukrainian consulate while they were visiting the deportation center, but we can only imagine how many people are in jails and deportation centers and the territory of Russian Federation. The second imprisoned is Bogdan Yaroshevsky. What was their aim in going to Russia? They told no one that they were going to Russia. We just had a call 2 weeks after they were detained, when they started to bring them to interrogations. So what are they telling? They said that they have no relation to right sector, and they also said that they haven't come to engage in any subversive actions or any crimes on the territory of Russia. We have Ms. Svitlana Gannushkina on the phone. Do you hear us? Hello? Svitlana, hello. Hello? Do you hear us? Regrettably, no connection. We will try to contact her again. Any other questions to our speakers? If everything is as you say, that at the moment Russian prosecutor's office do not have any grounds to detain those guys, why they are not released and why are they there for 3 months? First, they said that they didn't have any IDs, but their IDs were taken away when they were detained, and then the documents vanished, and the Ukrainian Marshal's office did not have any. Russian Marshal's office said that there are no documents that would allow to deport them from the territory of Russia. However, the consul of Ukraine issued them with temporary IDs. However, they still hold them there. Do we have any connection with them? No. We communicate with their parents who are there, 2 fathers of Bogdan and Yury, and we also are in communication with a lawyer who defends them. In a simpler terms, the official theory is that the bodies of state power of Russia have lost their passports and they cannot deport them from Russia without passports. Maybe I missed something, but what does the Ukrainian side do on the state level in order to release those hostages from Russia? And maybe there is some theoretical international influence on this situation. We have contacted our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also Mrs. Lutkovska, so that she stops illegal actions about beating of our citizens. After our appeals and the torture stopped and they were no longer taken outside the prison, they were visited by FSB, but the communication was peaceful, let's say. Then the consul came twice from Moscow to clarify the information about these citizens. I can only add that, as Ostap said, the beating stopped only after our consul went there. First of all, we should say that the Ukrainian consulate was not informed about the detention of Ukrainian citizens. Only after the relatives got to know about their detention, and the relatives addressed Ukrainian Ministry for Foreign Affairs and the Ombudsman, and only after the consul went there and he wasn't able to get there from the first attempt, and he issued them with temporary travel passes, and otherwise they would again say that we cannot deport them from Russia because they have no documents. So I think that the situation is like this, that Russia just ignores any legal norms. We also addressed MPs. Unfortunately, not many of them reacted, but there was one indifferent deputy, one concerned deputy MP. He told this to Mr. Turchinov during the session of the parliament, and Mr. Turchinov ordered the foreign ministry and law enforcement bodies to clarify the situation. Now we seem to have a connection with Svitlana. Svitlana, hello, do you hear us? Do you? Hello. Yes, yes, I hear you. Hello. Kyiv, the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. We are now talking to Nazar Kylchytsky and Ostap Kumansky about the detention of two people from Lviv in Russia. What can you tell us about this? Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I hope very much that today they will be. Regrettably, we have technical problems when connecting with Svitlana. We will try again a bit later, so maybe you'll finish your presentation. And MP Khmyl addressed the Minister for Foreign Affairs and the Minister for Foreign Affairs Deshitsa at that time did everything to get the return of our citizens from Russia, and in the same way Mr. Khmyl also asked Mr. Klimkin to take action. We also see a lot of passiveness on the part of Lviv city deputies, councillors. And Nazar says that the powers do everything possible, but I think that, first of all, this should have been taken to certain international bodies, because really, as far as I know, the torture there was, as parents say, that the torture was such that not all of us would survive, and the consul has stopped it. I am very grateful to the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and the consul, because they for overseeing this situation, overseeing this situation. Svitlana, do you hear us? I hear you very badly. Then please be very brief. How do you see the situation? I can tell you what I think about this. I think that this entire story tells about some spy mania in our country. And I understand that the special services can be interested in persons who are to be deported, but as far as documents going to and fro several times, I am surprised at this. There's been quite a lot of time, enough time to check the documents, to get to know that there was no spying, and of course the people should have been released. I don't know what our special services wanted. I think that guys from Lviv will tell you about this when they are back home. It is very sad that such things are happening in Russia today. What does the Civic Resistance Committee do in order to release those people? Thank you, Svitlana. I think that the communication would not become better. Are there any questions, colleagues? Do you have anything to add? Then, if there's no questions, then thank you, Nazar, thank you, Ostap, and let's hope that the guys will soon be back in Ukraine. For those who weren't able to see the changes on our Facebook page, I remind you that at 3 p.m. Viktor Yagun, Deputy Head of the Security Service of Ukraine, will be here, who will tell us about the plans of terrorists to shoot down civilian air fleet aircraft